Welcome to A Century of Cinema. Today I will be exploring my favourite films of 1975. First up, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. In the Python's first full-length narrative film, King Arthur, Graham Chapman, is sent on a quest by an animated god for the Holy Grail. He is joined by John Cleese as Sir Lancelot, Michael Palin as Sir Galahad, Eric Idle as Sir Robin, Terry Jones as Sir Bedivere, and Terry Gilliam as Arthur's servant Patsy. And as usual, each also play multiple roles. So why is this here? Quite simply because it is really bloody funny. It takes budget limitations and turns them into utter hilarity and mocks everything from witch hunts to God itself. It is full of classic scenes, including the knights who say "ni," the killer rabbit, and my personal favourite, when Arthur must face Cleese's Black Knight.
Now stand aside, worthy adversary.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
No, it isn't.
Well, what's that then?
I've heard worse.
It is heavily loaded with gags, from the pseudo-Swedish subtitled opening credits to the anachronistic ending of the cast getting arrested by modern-day police for the earlier apparently throwaway joke of an historian being murdered by a knight. And honestly, for such a low-budget affair, first-time directors Terry Jones and Terry Gilliam managed to imbue the film with quite an atmospheric visual style, which I suppose isn't surprising, particularly when you look at Terry Gilliam's later work. But this is by no means a film to take seriously. It is a laugh fest. Regarded as one of the greatest comedies of all time, it more than deserves its place in my list of favourite films of 1975. Peter Weir's Picnic at Hanging Rock, the first Australian film I've included thus far, is for me where Australian filmmaking began to find its feet, and has been acclaimed as the best Australian film of all time, and certainly one of my favourites. Based on a novel by Joan Lindsay, it concerns the disappearance of 3 students and a teacher from Appleyard College while picnicking at Victoria's Hanging Rock on Valentine's Day of 1900, and the aftermath of that event. Much of the focus is placed squarely on Anne Lambert's Miranda, who seems beloved by all, particularly her socially awkward roommate Sarah, Margaret Nelson. When Miranda, accompanied by Irma, Marion, and the always complaining Edith, go exploring, Miranda, Irma, and Marion disappear into the rock, soon followed by Vivian Gray's Miss McCraw. A search ensues, with no results, until a young Englishman named Michael, who, due to a brief glimpse of Miranda, has developed an obsession with her, goes searching on his own, and is later found by his coachman friend Albert, John Jarrett, near catatonic, clutching a piece of fabric, prompting Albert to search further, and he recovers Irma, who remembers nothing. As the mystery persists, head mistress Mrs. Appleyard, Rachel Roberts, must deal with the fallout, and her composure rapidly erodes. There is no resolution to be found. Picnic at Hanging Rock is one of the most beautiful films I have ever seen. First, due to Russell Boyd's haunting atmospheric cinematography, equally adept at capturing the beauty of the landscape, not to mention the impossibly ethereal Miranda, and the foreboding nature of the rock and what may lurk within it, and us. And this is complemented beautifully by Bruce Smeaton's subtle score and the unsettling sound design, as well as the evocative strains of George Zamfir's pan flute. Director Peter Weir, in only his second feature-length film, shows the confidence and maturity of a much more accomplished filmmaker and manages to keep the story ticking along while maintaining the languid pace necessary to the ambience of the film. And while not particularly a source of powerhouse performances, everyone is effective. Particularly good are Rachel Roberts, Margaret Nelson, and my standout, Helen Morse as French teacher Mademoiselle de Poitiers. Plus, Anne Lambert conveys such beauty and mystery as Miranda. She is the initial hook. However, the real strength of Picnic at Hanging Rock is the atmosphere it creates, with its subtle menace and unparalleled beauty. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, based on a stage musical by Richard O'Brien, concerns young straight-laced couple Brad Majors and Janet Weiss, Barry Bostwick and Susan Sarandon, who break down in front of the castle of Dr. Frank-N-Furter, Tim Curry, who is making a man in classic Frankenstein style. Violence and sexcapades soon ensue, culminating in a fishnets aplenty floor show. And amidst all this are tons of bawdy, campy jokes and some genuinely magnificent songs, including the eternal crown pleaser The Time Warp, Damn It Janet, Touch It, Touch It, Touch It, Touch Me, and my absolute favourite, the outstanding Sweet Transvestite.
Why don't you stay for the night? Or maybe a bite. I could show you my favorite obsession. I've been making a man with blonde hair and a tan, and he's good for relieving my tension.
As well as creating the original show and co-writing the screenplay with director Jim Sharman, Richard O'Brien also has the scene-stealing role of Frank-N-Furter's butler, Riff Raff, and sings the incredible opening song science fiction double feature via that iconic image of red lips on a black background, a song which, in the original show, was performed by an usherette, a role originated by Patricia Quinn, who plays the maid Magenta in the film, and those are apparently her lips in the opening titles. Rounding out the cast are Little Nell, Nell Campbell, as Columbia, Charles Gray as the criminologist, Jonathan Adams as Dr. Scott, and Meatloaf in a quick but cool cameo as Eddie. All contribute some excellent moments, but the show really belongs to Tim Curry, who, aside from being absolutely hilarious and delivering some excellent and truly unique vocals on the songs, brings a surprising amount of pathos and emotion to the character of Frank-N-Furter. The Rocky Horror Picture Show's legend arose from midnight screenings where audience participation became a hallmark, and it is now a film beloved by generations, which makes total sense because it is an endlessly fun, irreverent, sexy romp with songs which rival or even succeed any musical from the stage or screen. And most of all, it is a true original. Woody Allen's Love and Death, set in Russia mostly during the Napoleonic era, stars Woody as Boris and Diane Keaton as Sonia. Boris is in love with Sonia, but Sonia is in love with Boris's oafish brother Ivan. After Ivan's death in Russia's war against Napoleon's French army, Sonia agrees to marry Boris, since she believes Boris will be killed in a duel. He survives, much to her dismay, but soon learns to love him, and they cook up a plot to assassinate Napoleon. Inspired by classic Russian literature, with comedic elements reminiscent of Bob Hope and the Marx Brothers, and featuring Woody Allen's first blatant homages to his hero Ingmar Bergman, this is one of his funniest films, and also his most accomplished to this point, kicking off an excellent decade plus of great work. Directed by and written solely by Allen, the first film, but certainly not the last to carry this distinction, it mixes clever parody and broad humour seamlessly as it makes pointed observations on the titular conditions of love and death. Woody is very funny here, but this is the movie where Diane Keaton really hits her stride comedically, going toe-to-toe with Woody and even topping him most of the time. She is a joy to watch. And to Allen's credit, his screenplay gives her plenty to play with. A screenplay which, even when it touches on deeper subjects, never forgets it is a comedy, and an excellent one, earning it my best original screenplay of 1975.
This is an honor for me.
No, it's a greater honor for me.
No, a greater honor for me.
No, it's a greater honor for me.
No, a greater honor for me.
Well, perhaps you're right. Perhaps it is a greater honor for you.
And you must be Don Francisco's sister.
No, 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 it's a greater honor for me.
I see our Spanish guests have a sense of humor.
Yeah, she's a great kidder.
No, you're a great kidder.
No, you're Don Francisco's sister.
Finally, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, directed by Milos Forman, based on Ken Casey's novel. It stars Jack Nicholson as Randall McMurphy, who manages to get himself committed rather than spend the remainder of his sentence in prison. The ward is run by the ice-cold Nurse Ratched, Louise Fletcher, in her career-defining iconic role. McMurphy makes it his mission to get under Nurse Ratched's skin, to the amusement and even respect of his fellow patients, who include Danny DeVito as Martini, Christopher Lloyd as Tabor, Sidney Lassick as Cheswick, Will Sampson as the towering, mostly mute chief, and Brad Dourif, brilliant in his breakout role, as the stammering, fragile Billy Bibbit. The adaptation by Lawrence Halban and Bo Goldman, while making some significant changes, such as taking some of the focus off the character of Chief in favour of McMurphy, who was also made substantially more likeable, nonetheless blends the bleakness and horror of life in an asylum with humour and touches of tenderness. And director Foreman keeps the pace tight with one compelling scene after another, and elicits astounding performances from his actors all the way down the call sheet. Jack Nicholson does some of his absolute best work as McMurphy, with all of his wit, insanity, darkness and passion on full display. Louise Fletcher as Nurse Ratched, with her icy stare and barely contained contempt, makes her one of cinema's most intriguing and loathsome antagonists. Nobody does passive-aggressive bitch like Louise Fletcher. And the combination of the manic Nicholson and the frigid Fletcher make them intriguing and dynamic adversaries.
The chief voted. Now, will you please turn the television set on?
Mr. McMurphy, the meeting was adjourned and the vote was closed.
But the vote was 10-8. The chief, he's got his hand up. Look.
No, Mr. McMurphy. When the meeting was adjourned, the vote was 9-9.
Oh, come on. You're not going to say that now. You're not going to say that now. You're going to pull that henhouse shit now. When the vote, the chief just voted, it was 10-9. Now, I want that television set turned on right now!
Brad Dourif almost manages to outshine these two powerhouses in his supporting role as Billy, the source of the majority of the emotional resonance of the film, and does it with exceptional authenticity. The same is true with all the other inmates, particularly DeVito as Martini, the best he's ever been. Lassick as Cheswick comes across as so real that I still question whether he is even acting, and Christopher Lloyd, now well known for playing various varieties of insanity, clearly shows why he keeps getting put in these roles. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was only the second film ever to win the Big Five Oscars, after 1934's It Happened One Night, and as of this moment, one of only 3 to have that distinction. And I concur wholeheartedly. It is my choice for Best Actor, Jack Nicholson, Best Actress, Louise Fletcher, Best Adapted Screenplay for Halban and Goldman, Best Director for Milos Forman, and Best Picture of 1975. Join me next time on A Century of Cinema, when I will be discussing my favourite films of 1976. Now go watch a movie.